I grew up in Southern California. I was born in the Los Angeles area. And when the rolling up, so to speak, as you put it, began to occur, this was in 1973. I was a young boy playing baseball in Mayboyer Park in Lakewood, California with my grandfather. And I had a very unusual experience in the park. That unusual experience resulted, I think, in a chain of events which ultimately led me to being approached at University of Nevada at Las Vegas in 1986. What happened was I was out on a bright day with my grandfather, and we were playing catch. I wanted to catch a ball like Willie Mays, so I told him to throw it high, and I ran, and the ball went over my head. And I looked up toward the ball, and I remember seeing a flash of the sun. And so I winced, and I looked down for a moment at the grass below me. And then I noticed that the entire area around me turned black. It had been shaded out from the sun. The next thing I consciously remember was noticing that the sun itself was in a different position. I was still standing on the ball field. And I looked to the west where my grandfather was then seated by a tree. And I remember it was almost like a single frame flash of a tall person standing behind my grandfather. The tall person was wearing, it appeared to be
Sure.
all gray.
All right.
And aside from that, I didn't see anything, unusual or entities or anything like that.
Okay.
I then ran toward my grandfather, and he just stayed seated at the tree, which was very unusual for him. Am I still hearable?
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great. No feedback now. Following that, he said to me he just wanted to take me home. He had reddened eyes. He had been crying, and which was very unusual for me because I had never seen my grandpa cry.
Right.
And he walked me home that day, and that began a series of events in my family, which ultimately resulted in my grandfather and my grandmother moving away. We were an extended family. Late night arguments between my grandfather, my grandmother, and my parents. Him not wanting to talk about, and to the day he finally passed away, he would never speak about the events in the park that day. Some 30 years after that occurred, the grown-up boy, now a man, was taken back by Marcia, who's here in the audience, to Mayboyer Park for the first time, to the south side of Del Amo Boulevard. And for the first time, I re-experienced the emotions of that day. She actually captured it on film, and as part of the private portions of my debriefing from the years with Madge, that she filmed that first moment of return back there, and I think she plans on releasing it at some time. A lot of tears, a lot of emotion. I could feel my grandpa for the first time after that many years. I could see him sitting there, and I knew that he was still with me.
Well, you are best known for your expertise in microbiology. And it is for that skill that you were brought into this very deep, dark, black world. When did you first start your interest in biology or science in general?
That started after what I found out much later was in fact an abduction experience at Mayboyer Park. That started within the next couple of years after that. I didn't have any interest in science, and I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to play with my G.I. Joes, my Planet of the Apes figurines, and I was just what I considered a normal kid. I wanted to ride my bike and all of that, but within a couple of years after that experience, and after Grandma and Grandpa moved away, and we moved to another apartment complex from the house that we lived on Stevely at the time, my interests began to change. They began to change rapidly. The Planet of the Apes figurines and the G.I. Joes were given over for beakers, and I had had a Tasco microscope ever since I was way young. And I started looking through the Tasco microscope more. And then something happened with my mom, Dodie. She said that she knew that I had a greater interest in science, and that she had been approached by a gentleman who suggested to have me introduced to a pathologist. She didn't really tell me anything much about that approach. I found out years later, because of a conversation that she subsequently had with Marcia, that she was actually given some money by these gentlemen and suggested who to call the chief pathologist at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center, and that he would help us from there. She called, and I was fairly quickly introduced to Dr. James Reynolds, a pathologist at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center. In fact, he was the chief pathologist there at the time. Kind of took me under his wing and showed me some histology slides, and found that I had a certain aptitude. Where the aptitude came from, I still don't know for sure. I have my suspicions. But the aptitude was not normal for what I considered the young boy at the time.
Your age bracket.
Right.
Yeah.
I began picking up the histopathological slides and working through them one after another, and was remembering all of the names of the cells and could rattle them off for him and the tissue layers fairly quickly. We were working with a double-headed AO scope there in the pathology lab. And I was taken for many, many weekends on Saturdays, and he showed me how to process tissues and do paraffin sections and all of that. So the interest picked up rapidly, and he said, well, you don't have a decent microscope. You've got that plastic toy. Let me introduce you to a man named John DeHaas. So he introduced me from there to the DeHaas optical person, who was also an associate professor at USC. Dr. DeHaas was a fairly elderly German gentleman, spoke with a heavy accent. And he said, he says, we've got a little meeting, and I'd like to introduce you to some people at the Los Angeles Microscopical Society. And we meet at the George C. Page Museum at the La Brea Tar Pits.
I'm sure they're a fun bunch.
They're all right. I mean, I walked into a group of people that I consider the most learned minds in the world, especially at the time, and they knew everything about microscopes, and they were interested in the same things I was interested in. So it was like literally a kid in a candy shop.
So you found your circles, and you started to thrive.
Well, they found me. The circles found me, because I was just kind of moving from then living on Delamo Boulevard, further down Delamo, then to meeting Dr. Reynolds, then to John DeHaas, then to the leader of the Lambs, Gil Millay, who was a composer. He passed away a few years ago, and also a microscope enthusiast. He had a house full of old brass scopes, just beautiful things. From there, Zane Price from UCLA, who I believe is emeritus now, the gentleman who showed me how to use a transmission scope for the first time, an electron microscope.
Did you start your formal education at SUNY, I believe, before you got sort of indoctrinated into this intelligence work, or was this something that happened after?
No, what happened was I was working in Bert's lab, Dr. Bert Bell Barbero. I'm not sure if he's still around. God, I hope so. But working in Bert Barbero's lab, under cover of secrecy in the department, because I had already been made persona non grata, I refused to change certain numbers having to do with a hypochlorite study that I was doing with another professor. He wanted me to up some numbers so that higher funding would come in from the National Cancer Institute. I said no. I gave him the set of keys, and the keys accessing the White Hall's Animal Laboratory, and said, thank you, no. As a result of that, I lost any opportunity for a committee letter to go to medical school. However, Bert, who needed somebody to clean his laboratory, offered me in exchange for my willingness to clean his histology and his parasitology, there were connected labs, offered me the opportunity to continue the work inside of his laboratory.
Okay.
So there I was working one day in 1986, using a rotary tome to cut some slides. He had me cutting some nematode slides for him. And it was just, as for privilege of using the lab to do the other work. And contrary to what people have been told by certain, I'll just say, jaded journalists, I was not working with Clorox bleach. We were working on taurine chloramine. And that has a long and a rich history of modulating immunosuppression and immunoactivity. But it sounds like one thing when it's presented in a certain way, and it's not what the reality was.
All right.
In any case, I was working in there, and I heard somebody keying the door. Now that alerted me and scared the death out of me, because I thought somebody from the department who may know that I did not belong in there at the time may be coming in. So I began to gather my things quickly, and I was going to go out. There was a room between the two labs.
Head out the back door.
And I was getting ready to run out the back door and then get out the door by the incinerator down by the animal facility. Well, it was not members of the department who walked in. There was one gentleman who walked in wearing a suit. Another gentleman, that was LJ. I subsequently knew him during the entire 20 years. He ended up becoming the aide-de-camp to MJ1. We called him Little John because he was a large gentleman, and we called him also Little John because he was the aide-de-camp to the person whose first name is John.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about Majestic 12, one of the first members of Majestic 12.
He was considered the moral compass.
Okay. So they walked in, and what did they say to you, I wonder?
Well, the second gentleman was wearing a clear naval uniform. The third gentleman was wearing what appeared to be a half uniform, half suit. Mm-hmm. He had some unusual buttons up on his collar, and to this day, I don't know who the gentleman was. Mm-hmm. Not for sure. I had one person lie to me about it some years ago, but I found out that was a bunch of garbage. I said, "Can I help you?" And the LJ said to me, "Yes, I think you can." And they asked me to speak with them, and I asked if I could have a seat, and I ended up having a seat there in the histology at one of the desks in the lab. And I said, "Am I in some kind of trouble?" I see, just prior to this, I had given an interview, Rule 1, don't trust the press. I had given an interview, other people agree, they know, given an interview with the Yellen Rebel, and that interview was part of my contentious breakup with this certain professor, and he's passed away now, so I'm going to leave his... Yeah, it was the campus newspaper.
Okay, campus newspaper.
And I had a nickname for the modulation chemical that we were working with, and we called it transformium. It was a nickname, just kind of like we use nicknames for the Lotus Project, which we're working now. Mm-hmm. Well, how this ended up, I gave them an honest interview. I spoke the truth. I said that we're working on it, but the numbers weren't high enough, and he preferred, I was being diplomatic about it, that he preferred higher numbers. We had a disagreement, and I left. Well, Crane claims cancer cure.
Was the headline.
Was the headline above the photograph of me.
Yeah.
I've never claimed such a thing. Yeah. If I find one, then you'll hear me claim it.
Sounds fair enough.
But thus far, I've not. I found something that's intriguing, and I still believe it's intriguing, and the biomedical concern with which Marcia and I are now presently involved finds it intriguing, but they still have their higher priorities as well. So it's in the queue, so to speak. Sure. But we had a seat there that day, and they asked me basically, "You want to work for the government? You want to see the world, They
held a carrot in front of you,
see the seven C's. Oh, sure.
And they probably tantalized you with tales of incredible technology that you would have access to, that no
everything that I would ask for in a laboratory, and in fact, that portion of the promise was true.
Yeah.
That was true.
So what was your initial response? Did they have a chat with
yes.
you? It was,
oh, no, it was yes.
Oh, straight away. You said,
"You've got to be kidding me." I was on the outs with the biology department. I was then transferred over to the psychology department, which I enjoyed anyway because I liked associationism, and that went back to my interest in biology and Erasmus Darwin and all of that. So It was yes. It was yes right then and there.
So so cut to...
I had no clue what I was saying. I was just, oh, yes, yes.
Okay, so cut to the next development in this entree into this very dark world.
Well, it's dark and it's light. It's both. The next development was a series of what I call Winnebago trips. I was taken out to the Silver Bowl area into the parking lot. And they had some vans out in the parking lot that were shiny silver. And they began placing me through rounds evaluating normal tissues. And it was by then, because of the teaching from Dr. Reynolds, that was almost a joke to me. I just started naming off the layers just like I did as a kid.
All right, they were giving you rudimentary tests and just
very rudimentary.
Yeah, all right. And that evolved into?
That evolved into meetings over at the Naval Reserve Center at the corner of Pecos and Sahara. We were brought in the back way, and then I was shown a video. And I was asked to give my opinions on the material in the video. But the interesting thing about the video was it began with 3 letters. It said M-A-J on the screen. And my knowledge of Madge at that time had to do with Palmolive. You know, you're soaking in it, the old Madge Palmolive commercials.
So
I thought, I had no clue.
Yeah, so there's absolutely nothing in your mind to link this with anything having to do with anything dealing with ufology or any compartmentalized part of the military-industrial complex or anything?
No, I have never been, even knowledgeable of ufology. We're not members of, with all due respect to the wonderful people, I wish I could see your faces, that are in front of us here. I've never been a member of the ufological community. Eagles Disobey, that Marcia and I runs, is not. We're part of an academic and research community. But the folks out here need to know what truths they've been told and what lies they've been told.
Yeah. And so cut to the next part of the story where you're starting to see some things come in. They're not what they seem to be. And how long is it before things really start to change for you?
Well, we were gradually moved from there over to Nellis Air Force Base, to a couple different facilities inside of Nellis, and then finally from Nellis up to Groom Lake, ultimately in 1989. It was a shocking experience, to say the least, to be brought up there the first time.
First time.
I knew nothing really about Majestic 12. In fact, I don't even think when I was approached I had even heard of it.
Well, what was the first trip to Area 51 like? I mean, did they take you on a bus or a plane or a combination of both?
I was originally transported up there via aircraft from Nellis Air Force Base. I was told to provide a series of letters and numbers, which I later found out, and I hope they've changed the switch since. I'm sure they have, but they're license plate numbers. And this is one of the interesting things to me. I've heard a lot of people talking about all of their experiences of going up to 51 and what they've seen and all of that business.
When you say other people, do you mean colleagues of yours?
Well, no. Folks who have presented themselves to ufology that I've heard about since I kind of came to the public, partially initially because of Marcia's efforts to free me away from what was going on, and then later on after I was ordered to do so.
All right.
The only reason why I even spoke publicly about the issue involving time travel or anything like that was because I was told to. I knew that it would ring more than a dissonant chord in people, and it has. I've had reactions, everything from very positive reactions to vehement, vile attacks as a result of it, and I knew that was going to be coming. That's why I've just basically said to the folks that were on the negative, God bless you, and that's how I feel. I understand that they're reacting negatively, not at me per se, because they don't know me.
Well, let's talk about, you provided us with some slides. Let's go to the PowerPoint because I want to give people an idea of where we're talking about. And we have a few things that you've provided, some aerial views of Area 51, if I'm not mistaken.
Most of the images that are going to come up here today, and I'm saying most now because when we spoke earlier, you didn't show me the aerial view. Most of these images I have not seen. Marcia provided them in the blind, so to speak. There's an angular image of the Lake Mead area, bottom right center. Okay. The green that the folks are probably seeing in the audience, bottom left center, is the Las Vegas area. And then to the upper left, may I lean? I was warned about leaning forward with the. I want to see it closer. Can you turn that a little bit so I can see it direct on?
Well, it's a very. Let me go to a larger picture because people are familiar with where it is.
Groom Lake on the right, Papoose Lake on the left.
This is a tighter shot of where we're talking about. It's some 90 miles northwest of Las Vegas.
Right.
It's in the middle of nowhere, and the government keeps gobbling up land.
It's an old AEC facility.
Yeah.
And
you were the first time you were there was what year?
1989.
1989.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't brought to Papoose south of there until 1990.
Okay.
We were flown in, landed on the tarmac. Were greeted by the buggies on the tarmac. Another thing that I haven't heard from the other experiencers from 51, and I still don't know why. Maybe they're not saying it, or maybe they don't know. But we were greeted by the buggies, taken over to the initial security where we provided the in switch, as it was called, where we would hand off the numbers that we were given, and that told them that whomever we were, we didn't identify ourselves by names. Whomever we were, we had the right numbers on the in switch, so they knew we belonged.
Well, let's soak into this experience because this is an extraordinary part of it. What kind of plane do you remember that they flew you out on?
It was a 737, I believe. It was Janet.
How many people were?
It was a Janet Express.
Janet Express, it's been known, yeah.
Yeah, well, the old owner, one of the people involved with Dulles early on was involved with the naming of Janet. Janet was a favored lady of someone's, but I'm not going to get into whose.
That'll be for the next disclosure dialogue.
Not with me.
Well, okay, so you come off this plane. How many people were on this plane, and can you give us an idea of the numbers?
The bottle washers were put up front, the engineers, and myself and a couple other gentlemen who were transported up there, gentlemen that I did not then know.
Okay.
But come to know later on in Aquarius, we were all transported up together, and they were separated off because they were already part of the Aquarius unit at Papoose, and I was pulled into a different facility inside of the Groom Lake area. Right. We were brought in past a door. I went down an elevator onto a platform, was told to step off onto the platform, which we did, and then we went down on a very large elevator, a flat type, what you would see on an aircraft carrier. It was an actual aircraft lowering device, down to a smaller set of rooms, and that's where the quizzing continued, having to do with by then histopathology, as well as dealing with cytochemistry and items like that.
We think we have some photographs or some mock-ups of the installation itself. You were kind enough to provide us with some 3D renderings.
Again, okay.
You and your people. Is this a good place to start to give people an idea of the physical location itself?
That would be an edge-on view of level 3. Right. And if what you see actually on an angle shooting up through level 3 was what was supposed to be, that's third level below ground, what was supposed to be an escape tunnel. The escape tunnels were a joke. They were blow-off tunnels. If something went wrong one floor below there, everything inside of that floor would be, including the individuals, would be incinerated. So nothing would escape out to you good folks.
Different kind of escape.
And so we were told to go to the escape tunnels. Well, it was a bend over and kiss it goodbye. That's the reality. If the alarms would go off, when we were a floor below down in the 3+ lab, we knew that once we were hosed up and all of that if anything went wrong, if the alarms went off, just pull the hoses out and sit there and kibitz with each other until it was done.
Well, we're seeing a more three-dimensional drawing, and you're saying this is the third level only.
Right. This is the level which housed the rooming facilities, The triad that you see on the right were the fourplex rooms. Mine was actually on the first triad in the background on the right corner of the diamond. That's when I was staying there, both invited as well as uninvited.
Well, give me a sense of this. I mean, this is your first time there, and you're only addressing each other as numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they take you down, and I imagine there's different colors on each level. There's different security men on each level.
Well,
give us an idea of what went on.
It's the same security unit.
Same security.
It's the same security unit.
Whack and Hut?
Oh, no. Whack and Hut's not allowed in there. The SRT and the CRT units, who do the so-called camo dudes, as they're, I guess, called, they are external and Groom Lake security. The Papoose Lake Security is a separate unit involved with the United States Navy. And the reason why they're involved with the United States Navy goes back to the original reason for the inception of the Papoose facility. The Papoose facility is a biological, offensive as well as defensive biological warfare facility. That's why it was originally created. First time in, I didn't see that floor. The first time in, we were taken to the debriefing room that the book room, so to speak, with the blue binders that Mr. Lazar accurately represented to the public. And we were told what to read and where to read. After that, and I want to be as polite as possible, but the facility that I was in, while it may have been the same facility that Mr. Lazar was in, he was in the facility for, I understand, some 3.5 months, on and off. I spent on and off a good few years directly involved with that facility. And from the position of the Galileo bays that he accurately described, all the way down to the 401 number, it's the only facility in the world. He claims that it's one floor. It's the only facility in the world I've ever run into where the first floor is called floor 1, as in it's actually stamped on the wall. That's why it's multiple floors.
Got a little more detail here.
You can't see that from Galileo, though, with all, due deference to him, that if you're restricted to the Galileo bays and the avionics bays, you can't see that.
Here's a little more close-up drawing. And now, was this a place that you stayed indefinitely, or were you brought back every single day? What was the time frame like?
Well, I was only actually put into that residential bay, the one in the upper right-hand corner, only put into that residential bay after a couple of years actually working in and out of the facility. The majority of time we were brought in, and this is after we were cleared for level 4. We went down, were badged in, went through the cleansing process and all of that business, and then were taken to the Aquarius briefing room, which was right in front of the bunny room, the B1 room.
So were you weighed, inspected, and detected? What was the screening like?
You don't get into the areas aside from certain engineers into the Galileo Bay and the storage facility, which used to be the propulsion facility, but they ended up moving that, some of it over onto the first floor area, deeper in, and some of it down to the second floor, because some of those propulsion units, I can't get into what exactly they're used for, but some of them were used for weapons. They were changed, back engineered into some weapon applications.
But you were thoroughly screened in entering the facility and leaving.
I never got in past the nurse's office without being stripped. All of our property is taken, we're stripped, we're weighed, given a physical examination, and then initially until the SEALs, the security unit, would allow me to have my booties, I'd have to walk barefoot around the corner from the nurse's office and over to the restroom area in the hallway outside of the Galileo Bay to get some booties from my feet. So I had to actually walk barefoot from there to there as a little, I guess it was a protocol problem of theirs or whatever, but once the protocols are set into place in a facility like this, they're not altered.
So the Navy SEALs were providing security at this?
I didn't really say Navy SEALs, I said the SEALs. Their nickname was the Black SEALs.
A mysterious branch of the Navy SEALs? clandestine?
I'm not certain that they're directly related with the spec war people. They are a different breed. They're the kind of folks that, as accurately indicated by Mr. Lazar, could be very intimidating. They carry firearms, they carry automatic weapons, and it's called walking the line up there. There are lines painted on the floor. They are stationed in various locations in the facility. Given that the fact that the facility may still be there, I don't know. I haven't been there for a while, so
but tell me about this
God only knows.
concept of having to stay on a line.
There were blue and red lines on the floor, and you were instructed where to walk and when to walk. Initially, if you come in and you work in a new job, you don't know what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. So what do you do? Okay, honestly, what do? You follow all of the rules as exactly as you can. So when somebody is new in a facility like that, they're feeling oppressed by the weapons. It's an oppressive environment. It's protocol driven. What do? You follow all of the rules, and you don't know what you can get away with. After you've been there for a while, you learn that you can kind of slow down in certain places. So after I was given an H badge, when I was able to actually take a walk in the facility, that because of the good graces of the #1 guy, I was allowed to walk around a little bit, but I was still not allowed to stop and look through the bay windows down over looking at the craft. I could slow up and glance, and down near the end, I'll say down at the end of the hull for the Galileo Bay is where one of the security units was posted. I would go down next to the end, say hi to him, and he'd nod at me, and I would turn around and walk back just to see what I called the chocolate drop. There was a small triangular ship near the end of the 9 bays that looked like black liquid mercury. It was beautiful. It looked like this beautiful little triangle. There were no corners on it or anything like that, and it just sat there, and it appeared to be setting above the level of the ground. No noise, just sat there. And I loved to look at this thing when I was allowed up there, when we weren't event driven.
And what shape would you say that this craft took?
It was generally triangular.
Generally triangular.
It was smaller than the back engineered stuff that the good folks in the public have seen wandering around the skies, the triangular ships. Those are all ARV craft. They're back engineered defense related craft in case, well, they would be used in case they need to be used.
Did you get any information about this craft while you were there or after, about its origin or its functionability?
Nobody would speak with me about it, and the point that I was making about it is I would kind of stop and glance, and if I would slow up too much, I would hear walk, and so I would continue walking.
And when a guy is carrying an automatic weapon and yells walk, you tend to obey.
Yeah, you do, until you figure out what their limits are, and some of the limits that we got to when we finally got together as a unit for Aquarius, and when we were finally told what we were dealing with and with whom, we started making fun of them a little bit. We didn't like being treated as monkeys up there.
You realized that you were a little too valuable for these guys to be ordering around like a gym coach.
No, they had a job to do. But
you
at the same time, I am kind of not just that I attended UNLV as a rebel. I'm kind of rebellious. I've always been kind of rebellious, so this was after I was thumped to be the working group leader for Kaela. I kind of led them in a mini rebellion coming out of the chopper and things like that. This is when they stopped taking the buses from Groom, that god-awful bus, and they choppered us over to Papoose. And we would do the monkey routine down the walkway leading into S-4 and actually walk like monkeys.
Really?
Just to irritate them.
Well,
yeah. But it was clear though there was a set of blue lines and a set of red lines. We were supposed to stay inside of the blue lines. If we would step outside of the red lines, this is outside the facility, they would shoot us.
Right.
And it was made very clear. So as long as we were doing the business inside the lines, they wouldn't shoot us.
Yeah. If you're acting like a monkey within the line.
Yeah, that's after we were there a while, though.
Yeah.
After I was there a while,
You get to
when
know
when I came in there, I had exactly the same impression
Yeah.
that Bob mentioned. These folks have guns and they'll shoot you.
Yeah.
And my eyes were, that big around, just like everybody else's, I'm sure, that went in there. Unless you're a little, enjoy that kind of thing, and I don't.
Well, in the interest of time, let's move to where you're starting to examine these biological specimens. And you're dealing...
Papoose, you mean?
Right. And you're there, and you've been going through this, but it dawns on you at some stage that these things did not originate from anything that you were familiar with.
We were dealing with an otoscope on conveyor in Papoose. And it wasn't just the examination of the cells themselves, the neural tissue. It was the examination of the neural tissue and the information that we were receiving about the function of the cells, because it wasn't squaring up. There were certain invaginations in the internal membranes in the cells which were not normal on what's called endoplasmic reticulum. And these invaginations led us to believe that these were actually engineered cells. So my first thought, in fact the thought of the guys, was that we were dealing with some sort of a biological warfare agent. And we knew that the history of the facility was set up for biowarfare, so we were basically, we thought, dealing with a potential Andromeda strain, and they didn't want to tell us about it. So they brought in, we finally rebelled, actually as part of the Aquarius unit, totally rebelled and said, look, we're working with the disubstituted purines, the reversing-like chemicals to cause dedifferentiation in the cells. And things were we were not able to accomplish the goals that they were asking. And we finally said, we're not receiving enough information as to the origin of the tissue. Well, they brought somebody else in at that point. He was the ramrod to put us in line. And after working 6-8 months with the ramrod, he finally gave up, and he rebelled. And when that individual rebelled, then we were finally told with what and with whom we were dealing.
And what did they say?
We were informed that we were dealing with extraterrestrials, at which point I sat there and I didn't really know how to take that. And in fact, one of the gentlemen, Bob, who's now, Robert, who's now, a different Bob, not Mr. Lazar. I never worked with Mr. Lazar. This other Robert, he basically said, I don't believe you. And I think most of it, because he and Stephen had worked with the project for years prior, it was like, why didn't this dawn on us earlier? And so they got rather defensive about that in the briefing room. And we were finally advised with whom we were dealing, given briefing books to read, the Defense Technical Intelligence Center, the briefing books. Those blue books, as part of the King Tut books, as they were called, the King Training Update tapes, they had a DTIC on them. And I didn't know what that was for years and years and years.
DT?
Right, for Defense Technical Information Center. All right. And they didn't come from the Defense Technical Information Center. They just got the books from there. Okay. And I thought it was like, really important at the time and all of that, but that's just where they got the binders from. They were like hand-me-downs. But we were finally brought into past the BL4, which was a joke. It was not a BL4 lab, it was a 3+ lab.
You're talking about the level of quarantine that's associated with that?
Associated with infectious agents, the risk groups, which are normally considered of high virulence with no known treatment or cure. However, it wasn't a real BO4 lab as a national standard would order, because that would have to be a separate cabinet lab. We were brought in past the decon from the 2 lab into the cabinet lab suit-up area to be essentially moon-suited, but not like what I ended up having to have for the clean sphere. But we looked up above the door, and moving from 2 to 3, it didn't say from 2 to 3. It said 3 to 4. They were kind of, how should I say, staggered. It said pretend. There is a sign above the door that says pretend. Pretend you're in a biological 4 lab. Pretend you've just walked across a gantry, because there was no room for it in the facility. And in fact, the clean sphere area, well, the ambassador suite below the clean sphere was built early for biocontainment, and then the area above it was dug out, and the slant elevator was put in to bring us back in case they had the defensive biowarfare people brought into the laboratories while we were down in the clean sphere area. We were then brought in a separate elevator facility that was dug under the floor between 3 and 4 to be brought back to the elevator and re-engineered in so that we could be brought up to 3 and avoid having to walk back through the 3 plus, the 2, the 1, and the wet lab.
Let me ask you about this realization that you're working with samples from a live, did they say it was an alive extraterrestrial being?
Yes, sir.
In your going through these documents, was it revealed that this being came to Earth as a result of a crash in Kingman, Arizona?
We didn't read that per se to start with. Mm-hmm. Yes, his date of origin on a jump was to 1953 Kingman. He was part of a 3-person crew. One died, the other one was taken to Los Alamos. That one subsequently met Mr. Uhouse. That person, that J-Rod as he was known, was a P+45. The J-Rod with whom I was privileged to associate was a P+52, who was actually a diplomat and a spy, which is why he was originally put under guard and treated extremely poorly, including intumescing him, firing pressure on him to gain pain compliance on him, which is why he originally introduced himself to me as captive.
Now, this is something that you're continuing to work on. You have these samples, mm-hmm. and you're dealing with retroviruses, and you're trying to help him with his neuropathy. Is this how it progressed from that point on? Well,
I wasn't dealing with retroviruses at the time. We were just attempting to de-differentiate the cells and get them to re-differentiate into a normal microglial cell.
Because
he had
suffering a degenerative.
Yeah, it was a CIDP-like chronic immune demyelinating polyneuropathy-like degenerative disorder that was mixed in with other things, things like an MGUS, which is a monoclonal gammopathy of uncertain significance, and a bunch of other, technical stuff. But he had Wallerian degeneration. In other words, it was a polyneuropathy. It was a peripheral neuropathy degeneration, which caused him extreme pain, and it also caused a reduction in his produced AFGPs, which were antifreeze type glycoproteins. This is why I was brought in. The training that I received after being first associated with them in 1986, the training that I received at SUNY, and I understand I've got a legal consideration here, the training that I received at...
When you say training, you're talking about your PhD?
Yes, sir.
Which you did receive at SUNY University?
Yes, sir, that's true. It was underfunded. It was paid by Dr. Teller. He was involved with the Committee of the Majority.
Who was your advisor during that time?
Am I legally able to say that? I can say his first name is Bill, his last name begins with an L, and he receives $256,000 a year in stipends. And he was also made a fellow of the National Academy of Sciences. He's an expert in glycoprotein, and if anybody does any research from there, they can find it. I have with me a legal agreement that I will show you, but it cannot be shared with the public. The reason why it cannot be shared with the public is that in that legal agreement it says I will not share it with the public. Would you like to see it?
Now that we're on the subject, sure. Yeah.
All right.
Because this is a point where I know has generated a lot of talk on the internet, and it has been something that has been kicked around. It has gone through various stages of documentation.
I'm the one that's been kicked around.
Well, you're the only one that has come forward on this. So yeah, right now
Well,
you are taking all of the limelight and everything else that goes
Yeah,
along
and
with it.
every lovely thing that comes along with it. That's just the way it goes, I guess. Truth is truth. People can either deal with it or not. It's their choice. You're welcome to sit there and read it, but please do not read it aloud. You'll see that it's a legal.
Tell me in essence, so that the people listening, give them a nutshell of what I'm actually looking at.
You're looking at a private agreement between myself, a third party, a legal agreement with a third party,
Right.
and a certain university.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to say that, yes? All right. That legal agreement says that my status shall be restored insofar as it is necessary to be restored for business and professional reasons. However, I'm to hold harmless that certain university who was caught lying. I sent a buddy of mine to the Eastern Seaboard who got somebody on tape because I was tired of being bashed around too. And as a result of getting that person on tape, somebody else stepped in, and you may note the name on the bottom of that privately to yourself. All right. But in any case, there's a legal agreement in place where, for professional reasons, in other words, I have a key turn now where my background has been substantiated so that I'm able to do business in the biotech field, in industry, which is where it's important. It's not important when I go home and go to sleep at night. The doctorate isn't. It's only important insofar as what I can do to help people with it. So I had to do something. So I took that as that was an independent action. And the guy who got it is the one who on our forum calls himself Mongrel. He is our chief of security, and he private now. It's not group associated. As a result, these are all things that can't be, I can indicate what they're looking at. That sheepskin was provided. It is, I can say that it is a group out of France who entered into third-party negotiations for us. Thank you. And they are distantly associated with the Catholic Church. Following that association, we came to meet people who were associated with this gentleman, that face you knew, and this is the gentleman with whom we are directly associated for the biomedical concern. And as a result, this appointment occurred to the biomedical concern, making me a vice president and also to serve at his pleasure as a science advisor.
Now, this is an international company?
Yes, sir.
And you can't say their name?
No, sir.
Okay. Well,
let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I don't. Marcia and I are part of a group who, because of my background mostly, the weird nerdy background involving biology, we work very quietly for the company. I can say that we're involved in vaccines research, attempting to better a vaccine against a certain type of carcinoma. And I'm also allowed to say that we're deeply involved in biophotonics work.
Biophotons.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's my understanding that the human body actually does give off a very, very small amount of light.
Well, it depends on the stimulation of the body.
And the most of it occurs...
Several counts per second per square centimeter in around a 200 to 800 nanometer range permanently. We give this light off, yes.
And most of it happens at our fingertips.
A lot of it does. There is extra discharge.
Extra.
But actually, all cells give off light.
We're going to get into that, but first let's cover the area of the J-rod. You talked about it, and I have a slide showing a drawing of J-rod. Was this by your hand, or?
Any image, well, let me see it if you please first. Yeah, that's by my...
That's by your own hand. Tell us about the first time that you encountered this live extraterrestrial being, because this is something that is at the center of how things evolved from that point on.
Encountered meaning seeing, or encountered meaning...
Well, let's talk about the time you suited up and you were...
the first time after
where they were taking samples.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first time I was on Team 1 and brought in, of course, we were briefed as to what protocols I was supposed to follow upon entry. After being put in the gantry, I was wheeled up to the clean sphere, and then the pressurization was increased in the gantry for the handover into the clean sphere. And during that time, I had to hose up and move the drum over and all of that so that I could actually step into the clean sphere. And it was a very uncomfortable process for me, especially given my size. They had one suit, which was a female's suit, for me to get into, a moon suit. And when they put the locking ring down on the top of me, it was a little bit
too short.
Too short.
Yeah.
So it caused indentations, impressions on the top of my head, which was extremely uncomfortable.
And you had to suit up because J-rod requires a different atmosphere than we would.
It was under different partial pressure and a higher partial pressure of hydrogen, around 4% hydrogen.
Was that the only variance?
Slightly less oxygen.
Okay.
And a higher general partial pressure of all of the elements in the mixture.
Okay. And I'm looking, is there a tail we see in the background, or is that a hand?
No, that was just my interpretation of his finger there touching on the glass. He used to mess with me. It was difficult remembering the protocols where I was supposed to use the pin system to remove the tissue samples from him. A painful process for him and for me. He was entrained at the time with me, and I actually felt, when I put the needle into his arm, I felt the pain in my arm.
You were in constant and immediate telepathic communication with J-Rod as soon as you walked into the room?
Well, as soon as I was on the floor. After about 30 feet, I couldn't feel the thumping anymore. It kind of felt like a popping, kind of like you may feel with a rangefinder of a camera. And after the popping, if you would look in his eyes, you'd literally feel yourself falling into his eyes. And then he, after entrainment, this is how they get you to relax in your bedrooms at night. The rogues, if they take you. They entrain to what makes you feel good, and then they flood you with endorphins.
Are you saying that's
why you feel relaxed?
That's what happens during an abduction?
Yes, that's why you feel relaxed. He started to flood me naturally, because he wanted to speak with me. So it began to naturally flood as I was speaking with him, and he felt me resist because I was told in the training to resist. And so he eventually stopped it. This is as the relationship progressed. He stopped trying to make me feel good. That had consequences too. The consequences for me not feeling good was that I was under incredible fear in his presence then. As good as, it's nothing you can explain, as good as you feel about helping someone like that, as much as I know that he was at least some kind of human being, there was something not right about him being here now. And it's something that goes to your core. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the picture now, and it's disenchanting. It goes to your core of what you feel you should never be in the presence of.
So I'm getting the sense that you, being in J. Rod's company, you felt that there was to him, if I can say him, an incredible depth to him, and not a humanity, but did you feel a sense that his beingness was one that included intelligence and compassion, and that we were treating him horribly?
Oh, no, I would say humanity. He was a human being in every right. Different, but a human being. Then again, you know, to a certain extent, we're all different from one another, but we're all the same. He definitely had a human heart. One thing that one of our lovely friends from the Netherlands had asked us whether or not I had showed him, this is Jan from the Netherlands, whether or not I had showed him what love was to me, and whether he had showed to me what love was to him. And the answer is yes on both counts. To him, it was his boy. He had a son at home, and a son that he deeply, desperately, to whom he wished to return. And he shared with me how he was unable to show his son love, but that he wanted to return to be with him, even if during this time that we're approaching, where the DCTP is going to collapse, the separation is going to occur, that even if they winked out, he told me, even if they did not go off into a separate timeline, a separate universe, or however this actually really works, that he wanted to be with him. To be with him, he could not show him any sort of love or affection, because that was taboo to them. They were numerologists, utilitarianists, and for him to be schooled amongst their elite, he would have to act accordingly. So he had to suppress himself, and in fact, even names were not passed amongst them.
Well, you had to take samples from J. Rod many times.
Yes, sir. And
how did that procedure take place? Once you were suited up, and I know they gave you a simple protocol that is a joke in the sense that anybody who understands this telepathic connection, but you had to stay there and say, I am human, I come in peace.
And I had to fib to both the people over the general radio that we had, as well as the second channel that we had, which was strictly the security and surveillance aspect. I had to fib that I was not being spoken to by him whatsoever.
Because they would ask you this.
Oh, I mean, oh yes. I mean, they would say, is he speaking with you? And I'd say, oh no.
And was he speaking to anybody else that would come in contact with him, or were you the only one to your knowledge?
That I don't know.
All right.
That I don't know. That's a good one, because we've never, it's a good question, because we never had conversation on whether or not he was speaking with anyone else. One I hadn't even considered until now. I don't know, maybe I was just so enamored with what was going on at the time that I hadn't even considered that. It's possible. It's quite possible. If he could figure out how to do it with me successfully, and he was smarter than me, absolutely.
So you had to approach him, and tell me what that was like, how J. Rod actually moved. Give us a sense of being in that room.
When he was being good or when he was being bad?
A little bit of both.
Okay. I was supposed to step into the immediate right of the doorway from the gantry, and I was to raise my right hand and show that I was a friendly human being, and there was an outline of a human being, and it was all a big joke. At that point, I was supposed to do the bridle step toward him.
Bridle step?
Right. Left foot forward, right foot, left foot forward, right foot, as it was established by protocol with him.
All right.
And I, in fact, did so each time I stepped toward him.
As they walked down the aisle, in other words.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay.
I was supposed to do the same as I stepped away from him, and I was to never turn my back to him as a sign of respect. That happened in all but one occasion. That's when he decided to play a game with me, and I took a couple steps forward, and he ended up taking a couple steps forward at me. The The friendship, the camaraderie, the heart, gone. I mean, it was panic.
Because
sheer
how does he
freaking
move?
panic.
Is he walking like we do? How does he move?
Essentially, yes, but he was limping, and he had a hard time actually walking erect because he was losing muscle tissue. He had severe atrophy in both of the legs, and so he would walk but limp. So, from my perspective at the time, before I almost threw up when he stepped toward me, he looked like he was flopping his way toward me. And when he did so, I panicked, total panic, screamed, stepped backward. I caught my boot on the grating and fell back on my back. That's not a good thing to do in that situation because I had a pack on me with a cooling unit. It could have been
cross-contamination. It could have been...
I had a protocol and I had tape with me and all of that. If I had cut myself the same way in a BL4 lab to retape myself and then be isolated and go through decon, and that would have been a real problem. And I'll tell you why. Because I'll get back to what happened in a second. But when we're separated from the clean sphere, we're taken over to the decon unit, and the entire gantry room is flooded with a decon chemical, so you actually get suspended in a decon chemical. Now, had the tape or had the gouge in a suit, if that had happened, not held, that decon chemical, I would have had to have kept that off my skin, or it would have caused severe burns. Then they flush it out, flush you with water, and then you're allowed out before the desuiting and all of that. And there's a whole series of protocols for the doffing and all of that. But I fell backward, and he didn't jump on me as I heard some folks say. He just literally stepped up onto my chest, and he looked down at me and he smiled at me.
He smiled?
He smiled at me.
Okay.
Yep. That's about as good as it used to get. He used to kind of click his face, and I knew he was smiling. That was his way. And now, mind you, the B team out on the floor, including Bob at the time, was going nuts on the radio because I had fallen backward and I had been attacked by the guest. From their point of view.
Yeah, they're talking. Yeah.
I'm yelling, no, 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 while I'm laying there on my back. No, no, no. I'm telling them no. Mm-hmm. They're thinking I'm telling him no, that he was hurting me. And I'm flopping around like a cockroach there on the floor. Yeah. Real nice.
So what happened?
Boy, don't I feel great.
Yeah.
And so I'm laying there on my back, and I then I remember pushing the number 2 button, and I said, I'm okay, to try to tell the security people not to intumess him. I would have been fine. They may have killed him at that point. The next thing I remember, I wasn't there. He had entrained me, and he was showing me his home, and he was talking with me.
He had locked you up in sort of a two-way mental exchange. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say mind meld, but...
Well, it's not this Vulcan.
Right.
Death
And
business,
was it that experience that you feel infused you with some innate knowledge that led to the discovery of the Ganesh particle?
No. He showed me as part of that communication. It was fast, and it was a real rapid ride with him. But what he did is he showed me his idea about how life came about.
He showed you his home.
Well, he showed me his home, he showed me his boy, he showed me his wife, and he showed me his mother.
And his home world, did you get a sense of what the cities looked like or what his home world was like?
Yes.
Can you give us just a little taste of that?
Only to a certain extent, because part of it was left private between him and myself. And I'll honor that. It was extremely dank, dark. It was an underground facility with tubes. There were no portraits or normal living amenities, what we would consider coverings on tables or anything like that. all stoneware looking, gray sheet metal colored. No real color to his world at all. He showed me his son, who was cute.
And his wife.
And his wife.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was his mating pair.
Right.
They had mating groups, and showed me his mother and why he was given the private name that he was given. The fact that she was aware from prior viewings with their equipment that he would come here as an exchange, which is part of the reason why they called him Kaela, was from the word challah, meaning a bread gift. And there are several levels to, in fact, even his name. But I felt the love from her to him, and these sorts of things. Not all of it was, some people have asked, well, could he have lied to you? Yeah, of course. Of course, he was quite capable. He was smarter than me, and he was a human being. Human beings lie.
But you didn't get the sense that he was?
No.
Did you get a sense
No.
of why he was on that craft that crashed in Arizona? Was he sent here, as you said, in exchange? But can you give us a little better idea of what that
He was part of a diplomatic exchange unit to improve our ability to back engineer their craft.
So he meant to crash and be captured?
No.
But
No, they had a gravimetric problem in Arizona, and they went down. It was during bad weather. It was a gravimetric problem, I believe, involving the electrical conduction in the atmosphere, and they dumped.
If they hadn't gone down, where would they have ended up? And what would they have done?
They would have ended up not that far away in New Mexico at Los Alamos.
Doing?
They were to land there and then disembark and act as part of the exchange program. The one fellow that died there at the scene was taken to Los Alamos. Ostensibly, I guess he was taken to the sweetness facility there at Los Alamos Underground.
So you're saying that Majestic 12
facility
had a exchange program already up and running at that stage?
A one-way exchange program, yes, sir. And the problem with this is that in 1953, while they thought that they were dealing with time travelers, they didn't know for sure. There was not that much information forthcoming. It was not until the Orions in 1954 actually brokered the treaty system that we knew for sure. That was, of course, brokered with Eisenhower. It was brokered in California, and that was brokered, in fact, with an exchange gift of the cube, which you showed me earlier that you had an image from Marcia.
Right.
The so-called yellow book or yellow cube or the Orion cube.
Give people an idea of some of the members of the original MJ-12.
Well, you've got my wife's grandfather's friend, James Forrestal, who was terminated. He did not commit suicide. That is garbage.
Thrown out of a window, huh?
Yeah.
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 Who else?
He was somewhat unstable, from what I understand, and he was preparing to talk unilaterally at a time when no such allowance would be made, and he was terminated as a result. Mm-hmm. That's what happens, and I'm making a very serious hint here. That's what happens to people when they speak unilaterally. Sometimes they're assassinated.
Who else was part of that, the original?
Well, Vannevar Bush, who was the original scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a list of them here if you'd like.
Oh, you can, off the top of your head, or whatever is easiest.
Well, you've got Hillenkotter. Mm-hmm. But, the thing is with me, mm-hmm. these early folks are essentially non-existent. When I came in 86, not only were they not spoken about, nobody really cared. It was a new unit. It was a new group of 12. So, it's a quaint history, and all of that, but it's not a history which, aside from the knowledge of the history of the Majestic, it's not a history that matters.
Anybody else that you think is worthy of mentioning?
No.
There is, of course, this exchange program that's going on that is a shocking revelation unto itself. But what is more intriguing, as we're here talking about today, is your evolution of how you went on from that environment to lead science in a whole new direction in the sense of this Ganesh particle, in the sense of breaking apart the very fabric of creation. Give us an idea of what interaction you had with J-Rod that led you on this path where you are now with the Lotus Project.
Well, the only direct connection was the imparting of how life began.
Right,
from his
and
perspective.
we wanted to finish that story. How he showed you how the universe began, or life began?
No. He showed me how teardrops were separated into multiple, and I suppose at the time that he was talking about cladism, but how teardrops were separated into the main domains of life. And the shocking thing about this, you know those little toys where you can press from the bottom and the imprint of your hand pops up?
The needles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Through that, I saw a human being's face come out of a red background. And it shocked me because, you know, I had, for a short period of time at least, had been to Sunday school and learned about Adam and you know, the idea that he may have come from the red clay and all of that, but it came out of a red background. And at that point I was asking myself, am I looking at the birth of humanity here? And he said that that was his opinion about it, that he had learned from his mother.
Is that right?
That's the only real connection.
Okay.
The other thing, which, you know, later on, we're talking 2001 now, when we went out, the wife and myself went out to Frenchman Mountain to do a fairly prosaic endosymbiosis study. It was fairly funded, but it was just to keep me happy while I was doing important things that they considered important. I was interested in eukaryotic evolution, so we were out there looking for biotype. And I had I theorized that we were dealing with a triumvirate type original virus which may have related to panspermia. So we went out there and we were met by an older gentleman who talked about flames coming off from the Vishnu schist area. He, in fact, was a Native American gentleman. Don't know his name, never saw him again. So I said, flames, that's interesting. So he kind of said, well, if you shine light on the rocks, you'll see flames coming from the rock. Well, I said, okay, well, fine. We'll work on this thing, and what the heck. So we put a laser on the rock and turned the film on, and gradually the laser went out, and I cussed the laser out, and it was a pen laser, you know, like this.
All right.
You know, one of the normal 3A type lasers. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know why the laser went out. Well, the battery drained. We had run into something, and I had no idea what it was. It was totally by happenstance.
This is on Frenchman's Mountains.
Right. It was just above the Great Unconformity area, right off from Lake Mead.
And this is ancient bedrock.
We're talking 1.7 billion years old, the Vishnu schist. But the area that we were at was just above the Vishnu schist, which is going up into the Tapete sandstone area, and where there is potassium feldspar. And we were on a little cliff there of feldspar. And so we took the video back home.
Right.
I thought, you know, big deal. And I watched it. Well, I had some Cladophora, glomerata algae that was sitting there, because he said, you know, it had to have life. And we had some samples with us and all of that. It had to have life involved with it.
Some biological samples was needed.
Right.
Okay.
And we had taken them from elsewhere out of a wash, because I was going to use them when we got home. And then I noticed in the video that there was a flare, it looked like a flare, pass at 6 millimeters per second across the face of the Cladophora. And that's when the laser went out, right after that little flare passed. And I said, what the heck is this? So we went back and we tried to replicate it, and we replicated it. Well, this moved on from there to dealing with just the rock, and finally we began delimiting the intervening variables so that we knew what would cause the phenomenon. This is one of the more controversial things that actually went out to the public, and that's why I know and you know what's going to be said near the end of the presentation. Why I'm happy to be able to talk about it here today. In any case, we were gradually able to, with high performance, replicate the phenomenon both in a higher energy as well as a lower energy form. And we knew exactly what optics train we were to use with a compound microscope to do it.
And to the layperson, that means?
We figured out how to use a microscope to get it working right every time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And when you say get it working right, what in fact were you doing?
What we were doing is we were stimulating the surface of any silicon oxide with a laser not more powerful than, in fact, not any more powerful than this, and a 9-volt battery which was restricted, and marine water, ocean water. And we learned with the right optics train, the right restriction of energy across the surface, how to get a peculiar phenomenon to be evoked above the surface of the silicate, like quartz.
When you say phenomena, are we talking about biophotons?
Biophotons are involved, and in fact we have film of them being involved.
Well, we have some slides too. Let's go back to the PowerPoint, because I think we have some demonstrations of what we were talking about as far as the microscope images. You have a few here that are taken directly from your microscope view, I believe.
Yeah, that was filmed in the presence of a couple members of the public who, because we were not willing to provide the optics train, one of them flew all the way from England. And then after we wouldn't provide him with the optics train, after we told him that we wouldn't, he did it twice, that we would not provide him the optics train because this can be turned into a weapon. And we're going to be showing in a week a film of how it can be turned into a weapon as well to the assembled audience that we'll speak about here in a moment.
Okay. And what are we looking at in this slide here?
You are looking at a peculiar plasma phenomenon off the surface of quartz. The round-looking thing on top is actually what we nicknamed a portal. That is a singular phenomenon. The area immediately under that, going from left to right, is another one of the singular phenomenons. The material being ejected off to the right is an aggregate of material which is assembled in the outer periphery of the phenomenon and then is ejected out and affects cells in our environment. We're presently theorizing that this could be a new variety of horizontal gene transfer, something akin to what we call transduction, and in fact along a viral type, retroviral type pathway, but an augmented retroviral type pathway. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a portal firing a particle, and we came to nickname these particles by different names. The one which became the most famous nickname was called a Ganesh particle. And we did so only because we had to call them something. We didn't know what they are, and to date we still truly don't know exactly what they are. We know more of what they do. We've assembled a proposed preliminary system, but we don't know exactly what they truly are. It's been suggested by such people as Bill Hamilton that they may be the Pavitrakas of the ancients, the ancient Hindus.
From their Sanskrit, from their Vedas?
Absolutely. That these metamaterials, these subtle matter materials, are the things which they believe come and animate their idols. I'm not certain, but it's possible. You're looking at a high-resolution image annotated on bottom with what you're looking at, as well as annotated by perspective on the top of a portal. This image was actually enhanced using software from S-4. I was allowed to borrow some software for a while.
Is that right? Interesting.
Yep. We nicknamed it Shady Soft because the nickname for S-4 is the Shady Rest, the old Petticoat Junction nicknames. And what you see in the top center is the object of greatest interest to me, the thing which is bordered or bracketed by the yellow brackets. They're microshards. We believe to be microshards of quartz crystals. What these particles seem to be is they seem to be enclosed microshards that are then in acoustic communication with the source, which would be somewhere near the center of the portal ring. What that source is, we do not know. And we know that they respond to acoustic stimulation because of Marcia's work with them. She began speaking to me while she was watching what came to be known as a Selkie, a class 3, class C particle. And she began speaking to me, and as she spoke, she watched its behavior change. So she finally started saying, boo, boo, and she watched it change as she was over the microscope. Well, from there, we learned that, in fact, they respond to acoustic stimulation.
Which is a whole other area of research.
And we're going to be showing absolute, undeniable, reproducible proof of that soon.
This, of course, is...
that was the explosion.
This right here.
Yep. If you put the wrong kind of tones into the system, what you see being ejected to the upper left was the head of my microscope, and it was lodged into the ceiling of my apartment.
So this actually blew up your very expensive...
Yes. Well, I didn't buy it, thank God. But yes, it was a compound microscope. The large ball of light in the center is a ball of heat. You can see the heat spreading down onto the table. We have film of this. You're just seeing a still of it. We've got actual film of the accident happening, and the color image is on the right. The little spot of red on the right was the flash off from my wife's face as the explosion occurred. I yelled down. I got down onto the floor. Marcia was watching through the internet cam from another perspective. In other words, we have it from two perspectives as the explosion happened. She was severely burned during it. She lost her eyebrows and all of that. She didn't get down in time.
It's lucky that that's all that happened, really, when you think about it. You're tinkering with the fabric of creation here, and we're going to get into the fact that you have had some sort of angelic experience, whether it's related to this research or not. Well, let me ask you right now, do you think it is?
Yeah.
Because
I'm hesitant to apply the word angel.
It's a lack of a better word, but it's some sort of, I wouldn't say a divine.
And I would probably, while I will not deny what happened to me years ago when I was very sick, and the Catholic Church has this on record.
You had a high fever?
1981. No, I had a demyelinating process. I was dying. I was blind and dying. And the demyelination process went away instantly. It happened here in Las Vegas at a healing service from Father Ralph Diorio, who is a known healer out of Worcester, Massachusetts. And this is on record with the Catholic Church. It's verified.
A spontaneous, miraculous healing, for lack of a better
It
phrase.
was a miraculous healing. I have no doubt that the love that was encountered at that moment goes beyond
mere
words.
mortal influence.
Well, there are no words.
Well,
there are no words.
You, of course, in addition to talking about the timeline paradox, which we'll get into, this angelic phenomenon first appeared in the context of your work.
Right, and if there were no photographs of this, I would. Everybody around me, I would have told, just shut your mouth. And I'm being honest about it. I would not have wanted this out to the public at all. Because such things are very comfortable when you read about them occurring thousands of years ago.
But when it's happening to you.
Kind of like Renaissances. They're great a few hundred years later, but while they're happening, they're real bad. A lot of contentious things occur.
But you've had this...
It walked through the wall at me, and we have film. She's got full color video film of it, and we've got freeze frames, images here.
And while I find them, set up the stage, if you would, because this is an extraordinary component to all this. We're dealing with extraterrestrials, we're dealing with a timeline paradox, and then out of the blue almost, we're seeing that this force that can only be described as somewhat angelic is interacting with you in a way that's blowing up your security cameras.
It walked through the wall. It literally walked through the wall, through my desk, and I was sitting at my desk at the time. It walked through the wall toward me. Mm-hmm. I fell off onto the floor. That was actual foot. Well, that's just an artist's conception from my point of view. Mm-hmm. It walked through the wall, and I fell back. It then screamed, and I felt myself pulled up in its scream. It was a deference. I heard it screaming to God in English.
What did it say?
Other individuals, it screamed the name.
Begins with a Y?
Adonai.
Oh, okay.
And
is that Aramaic?
It's Hebrew.
Okay.
And I only say that out of great. I wouldn't say that unless I was here to tell the people. I'm very careful with that word. It frightens me. But
now I put a negative up there so people could see it a little bit better, but that doesn't seem to help.
No, well, that's just an artist's conception I did. That's not it. You have an image here. There's still images, and yes, it related to the research that we are doing. And there were very strict lines which were not to be crossed,
and so
involving the research. And you know, I've been actually laughed at over this. And it's disconcerting being a scientist. But then again, I come to understand others better who have experiences without proof in their hands of the experiences. And so it's helped grow me because of that.
Was this visitation part of something you were doing at that moment?
Real.
Was it part of something you were doing at that moment, or was it just something that
not here? The first time that this being walked in or around me, it was not at home. Mm-hmm. That was in my home. The first time that it happened, I was up at S-4,
right.
And it was between work involving Aquarius, and there was some post-neuropathy buildup work that we were doing. And so I was playing with Lotus up there, and in fact we got the research from them, the results of the research, because I was proceeding forward with this, actually doing a sequencing, or starting to do a sequencing of what was being deposited by these particles in the environment, and that's when it walked in. I turned around and saw it standing in back of me, and it was extending through the walls, and it screamed the same thing that it screamed when it walked into my home. And I said, "Are you here to help?" That's the only thing I knew to say at the moment. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, the Bosco type. We're not allowed to, they didn't allow, this is stupid, and I hope that they've changed it since. They never allowed caffeinated products whatsoever up at S4. So we had what we called coffee. It was a Bosco type drink. And I began shaking, and then when it screamed, it was as if I pulled out of myself and was pulled upward in the air with it while it screamed. And when it stopped, I was back in my seat, but my body didn't leave the seat. It was almost like a out-of-body type. This image that you're looking at was taken while I was talking with it. It was doing most talking with me about the J-Rod. What we would speak about would be what would be filmed. And I was talking about the beauty of the J-Rod and how his heart was beautiful and how his heart reminded me of the hearts of cetaceans. In this image on the far, did Marcia give you the isolated image?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. If you could go back to where we, oh God. On the right-hand side, you see what looks like about halfway up the light, where the indentation is, something that looks like a ball. And we'll put this back up on our website. I don't want to market our website, eaglesdisobey.net.
Right here?
But yes, we'll put it up on our website again on our forum.
Looks like there's two there. Yeah. Something. Two
it's a single structure, okay. And that is the face of the J-Rod. which was being observed by the camera while we were talking about the J-rod. That is not the J-rod. That is what the being was projecting from me. In the bottom right-hand corner, you might see just a little, okay, just below the dot. Here, I'll show you where to point. See that spot right there?
Yeah.
That little pick.
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah.
Right there. You'll see the dorsal fin of a cetacean. That is a cetacean we were talking about.
What's a cetacean?
A whale. We were talking about a whale. In fact, we were talking about an orca.
Okay.
And that showed up in the image as well. She's got several images as well as film, as well as it turning its face, and you can actually see its face pointing the other direction as well here, with a large mouth looking to the left. Any direction this being would turn, it would be looking at you. In other words, it would turn and walk away from you, and it would be looking at you. The eyes were literally everywhere, and they appeared like burning embers.
What was the nature of this conversation?
The nature of the conversation was a teaching conversation.
A teaching in what?
As to what we were allowed to do now that we stumbled into what we stumbled into,
When
and what we were
you say
not.
stumbled into, what do you mean?
Meaning the discovery involving Lotus.
And Lotus is?
The scientist in me says that Lotus is a peculiar plasma phenomenon from silicate oxides.
And the average Joe in you says it's?
The human being in me says that it may relate to the origins
Of
life.
creation.
Yes.
Something that you and I both would probably agree that should not be tinkered or tampered with, or?
Well, it's not only something that should not be tinkered or tampered with, it's something that if one begins tinkering and tampering with, they go a little wacko or worse. We've had a number of people around us who promised. They would have promised on a stack of Bibles. And one did promise on a Bible, actually as a joke in front of me, to not try to do this on their own. Not try to grab, not try to imitate what they were seeing from the optics train, because they knew that we were not playing games with them. I disassembled the optics train in front of them, so they knew there was not a motion picture camera or anything like that in it. They knew that it was just a series of optics. But what I did is I pulled it apart and spread the optics out, so they couldn't tell the order, and they couldn't tell the distances, the magnifications, etc.
Well, are you the only one that has the protocols to investigate this? Who else does?
There's one other person, and she's seated in front of me.
So they're not working on
Yep,
this?
she's right there.
Yeah.
Marcia.
Well, I'm saying there's not another military installation that has this knowledge.
No, they kicked me out of S-4 as a result of this being walking in. It was one of the nights that Art Bell was kicked off, because when it walked in, when Art Bell was being kicked off the air, I was up at S-4. He got kicked off the air because of a strange energy pulse, he said, coming out of the Nevada test site area. That was it.
What is this image here?
That's an image of me being lifted up in the air.
And this was in your home during the same event?
Toward the being, yeah.
And you seem to be just a white outline.
This is extremely uncomfortable, people seeing this too.
This wasn't, of course, a moment that I'm sure you hold as an epiphany. How do you see it as it relates to your destiny? Was this an intervention? Was this an angelic transformation? How do you put it into words?
That very instance, I was being lifted up and turned around and told no for crossing the lines. That was, I won't say discipline, but it was instruction. And I understand the gravity of the instruction. This does not mean that Lotus can't be used for the benefit of humankind. And in fact, we've been told that it will be. But in ways different than what people may think. Are we getting near me talking about?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Yes, and it's a perfect lead-in because we got to.
I had some water here. I just
Yeah.
want to fill up a little bit. Shall we?
Yeah.
All right.
So what we're coming up to now is an interesting sort of revelation, in the sense that all this research up to this point you were doing more or less on your own with the help of other colleagues. It really came out of your experience, and both personal and what you experienced in the military. And it's now being set against a larger backdrop, but one of a more academic backdrop, which is exciting news.
What happened was this. On January the 2nd of 2001, the looking glass was employed to see the future involving Lotus. It was employed by order of MJ1. During the course of that year, that's right where we want to start. During the course of that year, a quid pro quo deal was struck that I could learn about the DCTP, the separation of timelines, and the true nature of the J-rods. And, well, it's safe to say, because I don't want to reveal anything too much from John, I was informed that depending upon the movement of timelines, whether we would go to the T1 to T2 catastrophic timeline, or stay on T1, that Lotus would be discovered in either 2091 or it would be discovered in the 3400s and have to be decoded. Obviously, if it was the T2 timeline, it would be the 3400s, because not many of us would have made it. I understand that it's going to be found now in 2091. I was told that two associates from the California Institute of Technology would find it in their archives, in Caltech's archives, and an afterthought, nothing to do with Lotus itself, an afterthought due to the brilliance of the people finding it. And after being exposed to the material, that they would have an afterthought which would result in the treatment of multiple carcinomas, an effective treatment. And you noticed I still didn't say cure. In 2002, near the end of 2002, Marcia McDowell, Bill Hamilton, and a third party engaged in a conversation. You can see part of that conversation there listed up on the board, where Caltech is mentioned. I didn't know about that conversation for a long time. At the start of 2003, in broken communications between Marcia and myself, she was up in Canada at the time, myself in Las Vegas, she ended up publishing on Rents.com Burisch's Ganesh particle acknowledged by Caltech. And I spotted it, and we spoke about it, and I said, no, what are you writing about here? And she says, no, I found it in the electronic thesis database archive, and it was a big hit in the Caltech archives. Well, we gradually found out that the Ganesh she spotted was a physicist whose name was Ganesh. And she went forward and published it anyway. You know why? She knew what was going to happen coming up, but she wasn't telling me. She had already been told in a private communication what was going to happen about the looking glass and all of that business. Now, fast forward. At the end of 2006, right after we came up with the required Tell the World DVD about the extraterrestrials and the time travelers, which I was ordered to do inside a year, a person appeared in communication with us. I have to be kind of careful about this, but only so much. Appeared and began communicating with us in a public area. This person clearly was not just the average person from the public who had asked me what the Majestic 12 was like, etc. He was asking questions about hidden Markov chains. He was asking questions about correlations. He was asking questions about what level of data set we have, what variety of protocols we've applied. And finally I said, look, let's take this private. And then, when we took it to email, I saw awadi.@caltech.edu.